So, welcome all to today's unboxing and review of a Dell XPS 13 Linux edition. So it should come with some Ubuntu, something pre-installed. Cord, nice small power supply. So actually the funny thing is, I'm doing Linux open source work for like 20 years, 1996, 1997, so really 20 years. And the funny thing is, 20 years ago, when we asked the company, hey, can we get some hardware to test, everyone was laughing about Linux. And now I get samples for testing or review, not because I'm doing open source work, Linux and so on for 20 years now, because I have a blog and start a YouTube channel, so priorities. So nice black box. The funny thing is, coming from PC 20 years ago, I only saw gray and brown boxes. And this Apple packaging actually, when I saw it the first time, it was quite nice, something different. Some nice shiny package, and I have to admit I quite liked it. Until Louis Rossmann on his really awesome Mac repair YouTube channel made a nice statement, which is, you throw the box away immediately anyway. So in a way he's right. And since then, I don't care so much about the packaging anymore. Most people just throw it away, and why pay for overpriced packaging if you never look on it? It's only transport box. So this is the Dell XPS 13, the latest edition, 2017 I guess this is, 9360. So I had the 15-inch edition last year, and I quite liked it. So this is still supposed to be the same construction, same materials. Looks of course nice and shiny. As I wrote in the review of the 15-inch edition, I never was quite a fan of this aluminum from Apple. When I was more of an Apple user 10 years ago, I always purchased the plastic version, the iBook, and the plastic polycarbonate MacBooks later, because for me, so it came with a post, it's cold, and especially if you are in mixed climates like Central Europe, where in the winter it gets quite cold, you travel, you unpack it in a train and it's freezing. I never quite liked it. And of course it looks gorgeous, just like Macs. In some ways I like this Dell XPS even more. You have some maybe more proper cooling here. Most people in the meantime realize that Macs are always a little bit prone to overheating. And I really like, what I really like on this, and I wrote this already in last year's blog post about the 15-inch. I really like this carbon fiber stuff here, because when you unpack a Mac, and nowadays you nearly only have aluminum Macs, when you unpack them, in winter they're cold. And it's really unpleasant to type if you commute in a train or sit in an airport or something until it gets warm. And the opposite is in summer. So in summer this stuff is hot, and when you really use it, so rewrite some code or whatever, or even cut some videos, and it gets freaking hot that you don't really like to touch your Mac anymore. And I really like this fiber carbon composite material. Of course, the build quality is precise, as you would expect from such a higher spec or higher quality machine. And what I really like, and again I also wrote this in the blog post last year, is that you can open this yourself, and at least the 15-inch edition you could change the memory and the flash storage and maybe potentially even the battery. And I really miss this on the Mac. Back in the day I always swapped storage, I always upgraded the memory. Now even in the company I need to think, do I already purchase a 16 gigabyte? Because I run some virtual machines, I do some heavy compiling, and from day one you need to max it out on the Mac. It of course helps Apple's profit, but it doesn't help the user. Size-wise, before we start powering this on, I got here a selection of various machines, and one comparison is quite awesome. If you look on this is in the meantime a little bit vintage, 2000, I don't even know, 10 or whatsoever, or 11-inch MacBook Air, and this is amazing when you look at this. So size-wise, this 13-inch Dell is nearly exactly the same size like this 11-inch MacBook Air. And there you see that Apple is not always right and the most awesome company. When you compare the size here, this is nearly the same. It's 4 millimeters wider, and it is maybe 10 millimeters or 1 centimeters maybe. And the reason for this is very simple. Look on this bezel, and I wrote about this already many years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, 6 years, on my blog. I wrote already, I really don't like this. Look on this fat bezel, it's unbelievable. And for me this was never clear why Apple had to do this. They could if they wanted. Maybe it's because it is so thin and the display doesn't fit here on the very thin edge. But then, did they had to make it so round here that it already starts? Probably they had to do this for the illusion of thinness, because actually the MacBook Air is slightly thicker than it looks, because the border here is rounded, so you only see the more thin edge. Did Apple not had to have this marketing trick for the thinness? They could probably have already a bigger display, but they have chosen not to, and already for many years I didn't like their choice. And for all the people always saying Apple is the most awesome and so on, sometimes they are not. And when you compare this to this ultra thin bezel that is only, I guess, 4 millimeters, actually why not measure it? So when you measure this bezel is nearly 5 millimeters, and this is, oh my god, this is 2 centimeters. This is nearly exactly maybe a tenth of a millimeter more than 2 centimeters. So 20 millimeters. This bezel is 4 times the size. And this is just crazy. I really liked last year's Dell XPS 15 already for this slim bezel. Because why should you waste so much space? I don't need to carry a laptop around that is only a case. I need display. This is Surface 3 that we use for Windows testing here. And surprisingly, this is not much bigger than a Surface 3 from, I don't know, 2 years ago. It is a centimeter, 1.4 centimeters, 40 millimeters wider. Actually, I personally don't like this surface so much, because if you balance it on your lap, this stands on the lap, while this, if you have it on the lap, you can often not really use it very nice on your legs. This is, and also airplane. If you are not flying first or business class, I usually fly the cheapest ticket class, and you have a small table there. You have some gap there, and yeah, doesn't fit so nicely. So, coming back to the Dell review, did I go through the ports? SD card, USB 3, and I really like this to be able to plug in normal USB 2, 3, and even totally vintage devices. Yes, you can have dongles for everyone and cables and adapters, but if you are somewhere and you know how it is, you don't have this dongle with you. Then here's some USB 3 Thunderbolt maybe. I wonder if you can use it as power source. Anyway, so the only thing I don't like so much with all PCs is this plug for the power. It's a little bit, yeah, if you hit something then it can break. Realistically speaking, the new Macs don't have this anymore anyway, and I personally never damaged one because I'm careful, but if you're not so careful or have kids in the house and so on, MagSafe is nice, but again, latest Macs don't have it anymore. So this came pre-installed with Ubuntu. It's not my password, by the way. You don't need to read it from the video. Personally, I'm not the greatest fan of Ubuntu. Not because we have an own Linux, the T2 SDE. T2 is a build from source, also for cross-compiled embedded, but also server use. And I, like other professionals, use it for the desktop and workstation laptop. However, that is of course not the main target audience, and we know very well that it's not as user-friendly as Mac OS or Ubuntu. The reason I don't like this Ubuntu so much is I totally cannot get used to this Unity, or what's it called. I so don't like it. It feels cumbersome. It feels irritating, and I don't know what they've done there. If I would use it every day, but this is of course not Dell's fault. By the way, this multi-touch. Does it have touch or not? I'm not so sure. By the way, is it a high resolution? It looks, however, high resolution. Let's find out. So, multi-touch scrolling works. So it's 3200 by 1800 pixels. However, it says 96 dots per inch. That is probably, can that be right? I would think it should be a higher resolution. Maybe this resolution setting is not the most correct. Anyway, if I would personally use this Ubuntu, I would configure this Unity away and start some normal GNOME or KDE. I would guess that is possible. I'm not a main Ubuntu user, but from a Linux system I would expect it can be changed and configured. Or you install your Linux flavor of choice, obviously. Speaking of which, where did I throw here my SSD drive? So I got a external, what's this? This is USB-C. Let's check. Yep, this is USB-C. So I got a SSD. Let's shut down this. So to boot, what was it? F2, escape, delete something. Certainly gets it. So this is a graphical BIOS I'm already used from Dell last year. And does it come with secure boot is enabled? That probably means it will not start from my not signed USB disk. will reduce system security. Are you sure? Yes, of course. I want to run my own Linux without installing security keys here. And here's already UEFI. Okay, apply. Let's see. So for this review, I like to just run my Linux from this external SSD. I also need to press exit. Fine. So I don't usually mess with the review units. Also, the Dell machine last year came with Windows pre-installed. I only booted Windows a little bit. I didn't change anything. I don't want to go through installation procedure and restoring procedure and whatsoever, and I also don't want Dell to get any of my data in case I forget the restore and delete procedure. So this is T2, my extremely minimal desktop here with just black box. I do not really need much more. So after some small Wi-Fi setup here, and so that is the thing. Normally you could not even boot a Windows from a external drive. I've recently been there, done that. So what you need to do with Windows is, so normally Windows would not even boot. It would not find the boot volume, it would not find drivers. So what you can do is you can do some special portable edition whatsoever. And even this, I've done this some 6 months ago or so for some testing. And it took me a whole day, trial and error, installing it 20 times with different compatibility settings, with VXH whatsoever, something volumes. And after trying 20 times, it eventually started to work. And so the thing is, I take here and this is not even a fancy Ubuntu. So this is plain, keep it stupid simple, vanilla T2 without any fancy whatsoever UI gimmicks. It's a plain old like Unix system. I plug in the SSD, and so far everything worked. Everything, including Wi-Fi. I'm already connected here. Everything except the touchpad that I take a look later. This is certainly my own fault. Maybe in the X configuration, something static or whatsoever. Maybe I had something special done for the Microsoft Surface or something earlier. You can also plug in here this nice power supply. So, very beautiful machine. Solid build quality, totally awesome, super compact. Nice material. I really like this. As I said, I really don't like this aluminum. Also, with this aluminum, if you happen to be on the not most awesome power grid like in Brazil, Russia or the United States or something like this, or sometimes also in the UK, at least I got already some electric fizz going on. I don't know why this happens, some grounding or whatsoever. I sometimes get some electric fizz touching Macs. And obviously having the case not being electricity conducting helps with this. It helps against cold machines in the winter, hot machines in the summer, at least a little bit. After working with this for 10 minutes, a little bit, typing here some subversion updates and so on, I have mainly one point to criticize, and this is this glossy display. And already the Apple Retina stuff is glossy. It's probably hard to tell on the video. It's beside dirty. So maybe the Mac is a little bit less glossy. But at least here at this table at the window, I have it a little bit hard to concentrate and read. So for my eyes it hurts a little bit. I would probably, for myself, look for a slightly darker corner here. So this glossy display is high resolution, it is super sharp. By the way, we can check in. Actually, this is running the mode set driver. Interesting. This is not really what I wanted to run. Do I really have mode set here. Actually, I have mode setting here, interesting. Maybe I tried this for one reason or another. Anyway, maybe there is an option for the non-touch. Actually, I wonder. So actually, this is interesting. Look on this. I think in Ubuntu, touch did not work. I will check later. But look on this. So this is, again, when people ask me, oh, your T2 is so complicated whatsoever. Yes, T2 does not come with UI tools. It only comes with KDE, GNOME, and so on. And even this I don't personally use very often. However, in this boring T2, look on this, touch is working. Not that you necessarily want to use this like this the whole day, but you could if you wanted to. And this is the thing nowadays. Even in Linux, even if it's not the most user-friendly distribution, things are working usually for the most part totally by itself and so on. And sometimes things work even more out of the box in Linux than they are working in Windows. Maybe for Windows you need to install a driver for this, a driver for that, and this driver has a conflict, and this driver has a yellow exclamation mark, and so on and so on. So things on Linux look quite rosy, and yes, every year is the year of the Linux desktop. That's quite interesting. This angle should probably help a little bit with the glossy display. So actually the reason why the touch wasn't working was very simple. After a quick look into the X log file, there was a error, ABI mismatch, didn't rebuild the Synaptics module in quite a while, so after rebuilding this touch, it also magically just worked. Again, personal problems of my development system here. Touchpad works, display touch works. So actually the same applies to the Intel driver. When I saw the log file, so there was not an Intel X driver release in like 2 years, and you can only build it from Git snapshot if you check it out yourself, which is something we usually do not want to do for our Linux distribution. So yeah, I also don't really understand why the Intel X developers are doing this. If they are so uninterested in their X driver and everyone should just use the mode setting driver for stability or whatsoever. So I keep playing with this a little bit more, and I will post a blog review later and maybe do another video update in case of, and see you next time.